Welcome to THALIR. This is a place called Bud. This is budding forth for a new life, and we are Capuchins working for the renewal of the society and the church.
Dear brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, welcome to THALIR Capuchin Online Ministries. Today we are very happy to welcome Reverend Brother Fr.Wilson, Capuchin Friar. He is the director of Anugraha Institute of Counseling, Psychotherapy and Research, and he is going to give us the divine message and the blessings. Brother Wilson has been practicing professional counseling and teaching psychotherapy for the past 25 years. He has a graduate degree from University of Toronto, Canada in pastoral counseling, and he holds a PhD in psychology from Bharatiyar University, Coimbatore. He holds seminars on a whole range of topics. He likes to work with a variety of persons, including individuals, couples, groups, and adolescents, and around of how family of origin issues impact current life systems in a way which moves towards healing, wholeness, and health. It takes psychodynamics and cognitive approaches to working with various age groups. He is a seminar animator on such various topics as emotional maturity, Enneagram, Millennium Generation, psychology, inner child, and so forth. Here comes Brother Wilson Sundar.
My colored glasses, prejudice. Any healthy relationship orbits around a sense of shared regard and common identity. Good relations could contribute to increased support for equality, respect for human dignity, and growth. While there are reasons for expecting this to be true in religious life, unfortunately, there is evidence of prevailing prejudice, discrimination, other pressures for group identity and distinctiveness that are a threat to our community life. This opens an avenue for our new reflection at this recollection. Mahatma Gandhi in his youth used to read the Bible. He was so touched that he thought of becoming a Christian. He assumed that the principles of Jesus could be a key to abolish the Indian caste system and establish a universal brotherhood. With this fervor, he planned to attend services at a nearby church and speak to the minister about becoming a Christian. When he entered the church, the usher refused to let him in, saying that the church was reserved for the wise. Being disillusioned, Gandhi left the church never to come back. This experience made him make a statement, "I love Christ, but not Christians." The prejudice of Christians became a counter-witness to the gospel value. Sadly, this dragon prejudice has crept into our religious communities as well. The dragon inside. A special type of attitude of ours that needs our attention is prejudice. Prejudice is a negative evaluation reflecting hostility toward a certain group or individuals because they are members of that group. This attitude is a negative bias or dislike of people because they belong to a particular group one dislikes. Some of the most well-known types of prejudice include racism, casteism, language prejudice, sexism, ageism, classism, nationalism, religious prejudice, or xenophobia. A related but different concept is discrimination. Discrimination refers to a negative attitude toward those who belong to a different category. Thus, discrimination stems from prejudice to beliefs. Prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination are all siblings. How do people become prejudiced? Many studies and theories provide an understanding of the origin of prejudice. Psychological contributions include the concept of ego defense. Prejudice usually comes from someone's lack of self-worth. Because of this, they reject people different from themselves, called the outgroup. Prejudice is also a result of competition between groups for scarce resources such as territory, wealth, status, and etc. Stereotypes. Prejudice and stereotypes are twins. A stereotype can be understood as mental images in the mind that leads to unreal overgeneralization of a certain person or group. These stereotypes can either be positive, example, Capuchins are hospitable, or negative, example, Salesians are affluent. Emotions like hatred, sympathy, kindness, jealousy, disgust, revolution, antipathy, loathing, and pride may play an important part in stereotypes. No one is born with prejudice. It is injected into our minds while we were growing up. It is learned that we do not have the opportunity to meet with others and appreciate their side of a situation. We learned a prejudice from watching the way our society treats different groups. This tendency creeps even into the movies, TV, media, religion, and entertainment industry. Prejudice usually starts with the labeling. Labels can quickly deteriorate into stereotypes. When we stereotype people, we are trying to fix them into a box. A stereotype is a rigid attitude and belief consistently applied to individual or groups like men are aggressive and oversexed, women are weak and talkative, fat people are jolly and lazy, lean people are crafty, politicians are criminals, police people are fully corrupt, and so forth. What about stereotypes based on geography? Like Chinese are cunning, Americans are immoral, Europeans are atheists, and so forth. Stereotypes often become prejudices. Stereotypes based on caste are so prevalent in every culture. Stereotyping is normal part of our functioning. Simplifying things a bit helps us to keep track of all the complexities of social life. But when it is stretched beyond the limit, it can become really harmful. Dr. George Borey, in his book From Stereotypes to Bigotry, describes some of the potential pitfalls. Here are a few of the potential pitfalls. First, sweeping generalization. Taking the traits associated with a group and forcing them onto an individual who belongs to that group. An individual member of a group need not reflect the traits associated with the group, even if those traits are accurate. Example, Jesuits are inhospitable. Number two, hasty generalization. Taking the traits of an individual and assuming they apply to all members of his or her group. We often build our stereotypes on the flimsies of foundations such as the following. Second-hand information. Many, if not most, stereotypes are based on what others tell us. Our families, teachers, friends, media, and etc. who may have, I repeat, many, if not most, stereotypes are based on what others tell us, like our families, teachers, friends, media, etc., who may have heard it from someone else again. B. Outdated information. Even if the second-hand information contains some truth, it may well be based on experiences of long ago. C. Limited samples. Whether the stereotype is second-hand or based on personal experience, it may well be based on limited experience with the group in question. D. Vividness. What is most noticeable about a group, what makes them more different from us or others, is often falsely considered to be normal. Third, unjustified inferences. We add information that is or was not there. Inferences from observations that we can make in our society may be entirely irrelevant when we look at another society. In-group favoritism. When most people think of casteism, racism, and other forms of bias, they picture one group having negative feelings toward another group. Although this dynamic certainly takes place, many groups, repeat, although this dynamic certainly takes place, Many groups' biases are more a function of favoritism toward one's group than negative feelings toward other groups. A shocking feature of in-group prejudice is how easily it is sparked. Discrimination and bias may arise not only from outgroups that are hateful, but they also can come from in-group bias, which has been found in all cultures around the world. Self-esteem and social identity. Prejudice toward other groups as well as favoritism about the in-group arises from the need for self-esteem. People seem to maintain their self-esteem in part by identifying with groups and believing that the groups they belong to are better than other groups. When people experience a drop in self-esteem or feel insecure, they become more likely to express prejudice. At the same time, the link between prejudice and self-esteem suggests a hopeful message. It may be possible to reduce prejudice with something as simple as a boost in self-esteem. A good way to lessen prejudice may be to get to the root of the insecurity feeling of a person. What does the Bible say about prejudice? Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him, about whom Moses in the law and the prophet wrote, Jesus, son of Joseph from Nazareth." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" John 1:45 and 46. Luke 7:36 to 50 describes an illustration of Jesus dining at the home of Simon the Pharisee. The Pharisees prided themselves on being devout followers of the law. Therefore, Simon is shocked that Jesus allowed the woman, known to be a sinner, to bathe his feet with her tears and wipe them with her hair. He thinks if this man were a prophet, he would have known who and what kind of woman this is who is touching him, that she is a sinner. Not only is Simon expressing the need to keep himself apart from those perceived to be different, but he adds the judgment that such people are inferior. The underlying assumption behind prejudice is that we are superior to the ones we consider different. Prejudice hinders our ability to love one another. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You also should love one another. John 13:34. How can we overcome our prejudice? Biblical approach. 1. Do not prejudge people. But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not look on his appearance or the height of his stature, but I have rejected him. For the Lord does not see as mortals see. They look on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart." 1 Samuel 16:7. Do not judge by appearances, but judge with the right judgment. John 7:24. 2. Admit that the beliefs are wrong. Peter said to them, "You yourself know that it is unlawful for a Jew to associate with or to visit a Gentile. But God has shown me that I should not call anyone profane or unclean." Acts 10:28. There is no longer Jew or Greek. There is no longer slave or free. There is no longer male or female. For all of you are one in Christ Jesus. Galatians 3:28. 3. Treat people the way you want them to treat you. Then Peter began to speak to them. "I truly understand that God shows no partiality." Acts 10:34. "In everything do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets." Matthew 7:12. Steps to eliminate prejudice. People learn early in their social development to recognize and interpret differences among groups. Once we admit that prejudice hurts people, we need to honestly search our hearts and confess prejudice wherever we find it in our own lives. Though creating awareness can help us understand what prejudice is, only we must do something to diminish Every one of us has a responsibility to confront prejudice and reduce the level of discrimination in society. Things to be done at the personal level. I can ask questions about myself. Is this true? Do I have all the facts? Am I overgeneralizing? Am I focusing on one or two negative aspects instead of considering the whole picture? Am I labeling a group or a person? Do I easily lump people into categories? Do I see people as individuals and swiftly pass judgment? Do I believe that some people are inferior? Do I believe we are all equals? When did I start to note differences between various castes and ethnic groups? What are the stereotypes that are commonly learnt about the different groups? In what ways is the development of group distinction helpful or harmful? How might I work on going beyond the categories I learned early in life? How do I work on improving my perception and dealing with the complexities and diversity of the modern social world? Things to be done at the community level. We have to identify our prejudices. We have to realize that low self-esteem is the root of all prejudices. Thus, self-esteem enhancement may result in decreased prejudice. We have to imagine how people feel who are the objects of prejudice. We have to replace our prejudice to thoughts with positive thoughts. We have to invite God to forgive us of our prejudices. We have to remind ourselves of God's acceptance of others. We have to cherish dreams of a society free of prejudice. Things to be done at the province level. Elimination of prejudice in the province level involves formal and informal teaching of equality and multiculturalism in the formation houses, communities, and province gatherings. Use of therapy to deal with the ego defensiveness and scapegoating approaches used by individual community members with low self-esteem. Forming groups of like-minded community members based on healthy intentions. Finding ways to undo categorization by redrawing the boundaries between us and them. Promoting mission spirit in the community members. The increased opportunity for contact, especially through cooperative settings, is suggested as a means for dealing with intergroup sources of prejudice. Prayer. Our Divine Master, you know our weaknesses and our fears, but you do not condemn us. Instead, you forgive us and invite us to put on the mind of Christ. Do allow the Spirit within us to guide our thoughts and actions. May we get rid of our prejudice, discrimination, and stereotyping and honor Christ in everyone. Amen.